Hi everyone, I'm Miranda and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing my September book haul with you. I've got some fabulous books this month, a lot of non-fiction but also great fictional reads, and I'm really excited to share my pile with you, so let's get going. I was so excited to get this gorgeous book this month. It's Jane Austen's Universal Truths, Wisdom and Witticisms from Her Writing by Susan Hart Byers, and it's illustrated by Polly Fern, who is one of my favourite modern illustrators. You can see the cover is really gorgeous, and she's got some stunning illustrations all through it. Oh, have a look. It's my Blackwell's bookmark. I love how Blackwell's always send you a nice bookmark when you order from them. And I have to show you this illustration because the autumnal scene is just perfect for right now. I think that's absolutely gorgeous. And this is just such a nice little book for any lover of Jane Austen. There are so many great quotes from her books in here, and it's just really charmingly illustrated. So it's quite a fun bedside book to dip into, and whenever you sort of need a bit of Jane Austen inspiration. So yes, I was so pleased to get this, and I love Polly Fern, so it was great to have a book illustrated by her as well. And then I'm a big fan of the Letitia Rodd mysteries by Kate Saunders, and the third one in the series just came out in August, I think, but I hadn't bought it in August, but I did pick it up in September. It's the Mystery of the Sorrowful Maiden, and I'll be talking a bit more about this series in October actually, because I think that they make really good reads for the autumn, especially the first book in the series, because that's set in the autumn. But this third one sounds really good too. It says, in the spring of 1853, private detective Letitia Rodd receives a delicate request from a retired actor. His days on the stage were ended by a theatre fire 10 years before. His great friend and the man he rescued from the fire, Thomas Transome, has decided to leave his wife, who now needs assistance in securing a worthy settlement. Though Mrs. Rodd is reluctant to get involved with the scandalous world of the theatre, she cannot turn away the woman in need. She agrees to take the case. I think these are very well done mysteries generally. I think Kate Saunders is a really good writer, and I love the character of Letitia Rodd. I think she's a great detective, and she really brings the Victorian era alive with these books too. So I do enjoy them, and I'm looking forward to this next one. Then I was so thrilled to get this stunningly beautiful book. Let me show you the cover. It's an annotated edition of Mrs Dalloway. It says edited with an introduction and notes by Merv Emery. And I'm so thrilled to have such a gorgeous edition of this very famous novel by Virginia Woolf. There are some stunning illustrations and paintings and photographs all through it. Lots of amazing notes that further your understanding of the novel itself, and also of Virginia Woolf and the time in which she was writing. And I really can't wait to read this. I think it will just bring so much to my reading of Mrs Dalloway, and I just can't wait to immerse myself in these pages. I think this is just so beautifully done, and I was so thrilled to buy a copy of this. Then you may remember there were a few books on my wish list when I talked about my autumn wish list for this year, and I have bought quite a few of them. One of them is Sally on the Rocks by Winifred Boggs. This is one of the new British Library Women Writers series. one of the books that they've just released this month, and it sounds really good. It's set just, I think, either just during or just after World War One. So I think it's during World War One. It says, Sally Lunton is on the rocks and in search of a husband. As the First World War grips Europe, she flees Paris to the safety of life in Little Crampton under the roof of her guardian, the Reverend Adam Lovelady. Sally is a warm-hearted, spirited heroine who is determined to settle into a comfortable life now that she is in her early 30s. But she has a rival for the affections of the village's most eligible bachelor, who's called Mr. Bingley, which I think is quite a good little Jane Austen nod there. And her pursuit is further frustrated by a soldier tortured by his experience at the front and a secret in her bohemian past which follows her home. I'm really keen to read this. It sounds like such a good story, and also it's meant to be quite funny in parts as well. So I always love a book that makes me laugh. I'm hoping it will live up to that expectation. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting to this one soon. And then you'll know that I'm a big fan of handheld press, which, rather like the British Library Women Writers series, handheld press rediscovers novels from the past. And there are a lot of women writers on their catalogue, but they also have some male writers. And I think it's founders especially interested in John Buchan. So there are a couple of John Buchan books on their list, and this one was just new out, and it's called The Gap in the Curtain by John Buchan. I love the 39 Steps, his most famous book, I think, but I haven't read a lot of other books by John Buchan, and this one sounds really intriguing, and it sounds like it would be quite a good pick for me for October because there's a supernatural element to this story. It says, John Buchan's 1932 novel, The Gap in the Curtain, was his last full-length work devoted to exploring a supernatural theme. If you were able to see 1 year into the future, what would you do with that foreknowledge? And what would it do to you? The novel tells the story of 5 country house guests who are trained by the ailing Professor Moe, a mathematician who has devised a way of seeing into the future. These 5 guests each gain one piece of knowledge from the experiment and have to decide how to act on it. So I'm really intrigued by this premise. It sounds very good, and I also love that there seems to be a country house setting to the book as well. I'm a real sucker for any country house books, and this sounds like a really interesting twist to that. So definitely one I'm looking forward to getting to, hopefully in October. And then this was another book on my wish list for the autumn, Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead. This is a historical fiction novel. It's set in New York City of the 1960s, and it's described as a real love letter to Harlem. It's part family saga, part crime novel, and I think that this is Colson Whitehead's sort of first foray into the genre of crime writing, and it's had really great reviews, so I'm really looking forward to diving into this one as well. I think sort of crime is always quite a good genre for the autumn. I always like reading a lot of mysteries and crime novels at this time, so that will be great. And then I had 2 books sent to me by Girls Gone By publishers this month. I run their Instagram account, so I always get their books, and it's 2 Malcolm Saville titles. So this one is Strangers at Snowfell by Malcolm Saville. I absolutely adore the cover. This is going to be such a great winter read, I can tell. It's the 3rd book in his Gillies series. He wrote these books in the 1940s and 50s for young children. I was a big Malcolm Saville fan when I was young myself. I read all of his Lone Pine books, which, if you like Arthur Ransom, Enid Blyton, and if you like that sort of adventure story when you were young, then you would definitely like Malcolm Saville. And the other book that they republished by him is Seven White Gates, which is the second book in the Lone Pine series by him. And getting this actually completed my set of the Girls Gone By republications of his Lone Pine books. So I was so thrilled to get this one. Now I have a complete set and I'm really looking forward to a reread of the Lone Pine series. But I've been reading the Gillies books as Girls Gone By have been republishing them, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's set just after Christmas and it's all about a snowbound train and a mystery, and it's just going to be a great winter read, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. Then another book that was on my wish list for autumn that I was really pleased to pick up is Light Rains Sometimes Fall, A British Year Through Japan's 72 Seasons by Lev Parikian. And this sounds really fascinating. I love the idea of these micro seasons. It says, in the West we consider the passing of the year through the prism of 4 seasons. Other cultures see nature's turn quite differently, however. The traditional Japanese calendar recognizes the subtle changes of the natural world with a total of 72 micro-seasons, inspiration for a new way of connecting with nature closer to home. And in this book, Lev Parikian looks at Britain's changing seasons, but through this idea of breaking the year down into 72 little seasons, and there are 72 chapters in the book, and they've got lovely titles, things like Rain Revives Mosses, Magnolia Shows First Buds, Warmth Settles In, Swifts Arrive, Dragonflies Lay Eggs on Water, Evenings Draw In, Crocuses Emerge from Damp Soil. I think this book will really help me to be a bit more, to observe a bit more closely the sort of changing year and all those tiny changes that happen within a season, and to really celebrate those small changes too. So I'm really looking forward to reading this and applying this idea of micro seasons to my own life and to what I can see out of my window as well. So I think this will be quite an inspiring read. And then I got sent this book by the publisher, the Literary Almanac, A Year of Seasonal Reading by Francesca Beauman. I was so excited to receive this. I actually only just got it this morning, so I haven't had a lot of chance to look at it yet, but I'm really looking forward to reading it more. Francesca Beauman is of course the daughter of Nicola Beauman, who founded Persephone Books, and Francesca is now very much involved with Persephone in Bath, its new location. So I was really delighted to see lots of references to Persephone books in here. I'm a big fan, of course, of Persephone myself. I worked at Persephone Books years ago when it was still in London and I was in my early to mid-20s. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this month by month through the year as well. It's got some lovely illustrations you can see here. And I, of course, am a huge advocate for seasonal reading. I love to read books that are in tune with the seasons. So I'm excited to explore this a little bit more and to read Francesca's suggestions for every month of the year. I'm sure they'll be fabulous. Then I got a couple other non-fiction books sent to me by the publishers this month. I was so thrilled to get this gorgeous book, Miss Dior, A Story of Courage and Couture by Justine Picardie. This is a biography of Christian Dior's sister, of whom he was very, very fond, and he named the perfume, the famous Miss Dior perfume, after her. She was a very, very private woman who lived through the Second World War, was a part of the French resistance and was sent to a concentration camp because of that, which she did survive, but after that she really devoted her life to her garden. And this looks like a very interesting biography, because I think trying to find the woman behind Miss Dior was really quite a challenge. Like I said, she was a very private person, and there was only so much Justine Picardie could do in terms of telling her story. So she really fleshes it out a lot to also look at the history of that time, the history of fashion, Dior fashion in particular, of course. And I think it's just very well done. I'm really looking forward to reading this properly. It's got so many photographs. It's really heavily illustrated throughout, which is fabulous. I think I read somewhere that there are about 400 illustrations or something. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that right, but there are definitely a lot. It seems really crammed full of lots of amazing photographs and just so much detail about the Dior household and his house of fashion. So I love fashion. I'm fascinated by this period of history as well, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. So I was so excited to get that. And then another book I was sent by the publisher, which is great I think for bookish types, is Index, A History of the by Dennis Duncan. A bookish adventure it's called. And it sounds really interesting. It says, "This is the secret world of the Index, an unsung but extraordinary everyday tool with an illustrious but little known past. Here, for the first time, its story is told, charting its curious path from the monasteries and universities of 13th century Europe to Silicon Valley in the 21st. Dennis Duncan reveals how the Index has saved heretics from the stake, kept politicians from high office, and made us all into the readers we are today." So this sounds like a really fascinating history. You might know already that I did linguistics as my undergraduate degree, so I'm always interested in the history of language and the history of books too, so I think this will be a very great read. I'm looking forward to it. Then I'm a huge fan of the All of a Kind family children's books by the author Sydney Taylor. I read all of those when I was little. I still like to reread them now. And I was really excited to get this biography of their author. It's called From Sarah to Sydney, the woman behind All of a Kind family. And I'm so looking forward to reading this. It says this is the first and only biography of Sydney Taylor, author of the award-winning All of a Kind family series of books, the first juvenile novels published by a mainstream publisher to feature Jewish children characters. And the family in the books was very much based on Sydney Taylor's own family. I think she uses the same names even of her sisters in the books. And she was born Sarah, but she later changed her name to the more sort of boyish Sydney. And I'm very, very excited to read this biography of her life. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the books, but I don't really know that much about their author. And they were such important children's books of the time and just went on to become such greatly loved classics. I think June Cummins very sadly died before she actually could finish the biography. So I think, because it says June Cummins with Alexandra Denites, I hope that's how you pronounce the last name. So there was some assistance in finishing the biography because June Cummins sadly passed away before it could be completed. But I'm very much looking forward to reading this, and I'm sure it will be really fascinating. And then finally, another book I bought myself that was on my autumn wish list is The Starnosed Mole by Isabel Bannerman. And it says this is an anthology of scented garden writing. I love Isabel Bannerman's previous book called Scent Magic, that was so beautifully written, and this is a bit different because it's less of Isabel Bannerman's own writing about gardening. It's an anthology of other writers, but I really love it. I so recommend it. It features Elizabeth Bannerman's amazing photography. I think her floral photography is so exquisite, very special. Here's another one. And what's really nice is this book takes you month by month through the year, and for each month there are appropriate quotes from books and from poetry, for instance, by famous writers, all about the power of scent, especially the scents of flowers and nature generally. And it's just such a special anthology. I think it will really make the seasons come alive for me that much more, to read this in conjunction with every month, and it will inspire me to look at the world and smell the world around me in a bit of a different way. So I'm really looking forward to dipping into this one already. But anyway, those are the books that I got in September. I'm so thrilled with all of them. There's so many I can't wait to read. It's going to be really hard choosing which to go to first, I think. But do let me know what books you've been getting in September, if you like the look of any of these. And thank you so much for watching. Do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on my face that pops up over here. But I'll see you again very soon with another video. Goodbye.